Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome again tonight's Master of Ceremonies, Colonel Steve Parker.
Well, how about we give Seasons Catering a round of applause for their good meal? Thank you very much. This will serve as your official welcome to the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame event this evening. Someone asked me when they found out, earlier this week, when they found out I was going to be blessed to be with you tonight, they said, well, why is the Hall of Fame, the Aviation Hall of Fame, important to Kentucky? And I thought about it. It's so obvious, but then I had to figure out how I was going to answer the question. And I explained to this person that, first of all, aviation, and I hope you all know this, if you don't, you're going to learn it now. The number one export from the state of Kentucky is what? Aviation and aerospace parts and components. Right? Thank you very much. Go ahead and clap. We are the number 2 state in America in that category, second only to Washington State, and only because they have a company called Boeing, right? But second in America, aviation and aerospace parts and components. As aviation commissioner, I had a phrase that I have trademarked. It's called "Aviation is rockin' in Kentucky." There is so much going on. It's amazing, and it provides jobs and all kinds of good things. So that's important, that anything with aviation succeed and move forward. But this particular, the museum and the Hall of Fame together will help when young people come to visit. Look, you all know this, I hope, but we are in America. We're short of pilots. We're short of aircraft mechanics. We're short of aeronautical engineers. We're short of air traffic controllers. If you got a young child that's interested in getting in a job where he or she can go anywhere and do what they want for a good salary, aviation is the place to go. So how do we hook them? Well, we have to get out and find them, and we have to have a place like this where the museum and the Hall of Fame together can inspire young people to get involved and study STEM. This is getting a very science, technology, engineering, and math-oriented world we live in, and we need to find them and motivate them in a place like this, in a Hall of Fame where students can come and see and read and learn about Kentuckians who have done incredible things, not just for our state and not just for our nation, but for our world. So that's why the Hall of Fame is important, and that's why what we're doing tonight is important. So let's begin the formal part of the program. And tonight we recognize a company whose motto is less downtime, more flight time. And as a guy who's commanded some flying units, that's a pretty good motto, right? You don't think much about the folks who provide aircraft maintenance services until something breaks, right? And if it does break, you're going to be really happy to have FEAM, maintenance, and engineering, the ones to get you flying again. Now we're going to show you why we believe FEAM deserves this year's Aviation Achievement Award.
Flying into the future is what is going on with the construction at the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky Airport. In 2018, it was one of the fastest growing airports in the U.S., seeing unprecedented growth in both passenger and cargo operations. For the first time in its history, CVG experienced annual cargo tonnage of more than 1.2 million tons, or 2.4 billion pounds. This growth would not be possible without a robust support system, and one of the critical components of this system is an experienced, capable aircraft maintenance provider. And CVG has FEAM Aircraft Maintenance, one of the best and largest line service maintenance companies in the country, and on hand to be that provider. In aviation, time matters. Whether carrying passengers or cargo, aircraft need to be ready to fly 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is the goal: more flight time, less downtime. The market for aircraft maintenance, including repairs and major modifications, has grown considerably as companies seek to expand their business. If something breaks, it needs to be fixed now. A maintenance company needs to be immediately available with the knowledge, experience, and the right replacement part at a moment's notice, and FEAM strives to be that company. FEAM is an MRO, maintenance, repair, and overhaul company, from complete engine replacement to the last-minute repairs. They provide aircraft line maintenance and aid check services to a variety of domestic and international air carriers, as well as transport category aircraft. FEAM's operation at CVG services DHL, WOW Air, Atlas Air, and the Amazon Prime Air fleet. With the expected growth of the e-commerce market, combined with the arrival of the Amazon Air Cargo Hub to the Cincinnati Airport, with its 3 million square foot cargo hub and 250,000 square foot loading dock, it is anticipated that FEAM will employ over 300 aircraft mechanics and line maintenance engineers, making the CVG location the company's largest operation in the U.S. To support this growth, the company is building a new hangar at the airport. At 103,000 square feet, this building, specifically designed to handle wide-body maintenance for aircraft such as the Boeing 747-800, will be the newest and largest addition to the company, and one of only 5 this size in the United States. Fred and Everett Aircraft Maintenance was founded in 1992 in Los Angeles, California, by partners Fred J. Murphy and Everett Arwine. What started with just 1 truck and 2 mechanics dedicated to providing the best service possible to their customers has grown into a leading line maintenance MRO with a truly global customer base. As it expanded, it was rebranded, and F&M Aircraft became FEAM. Line maintenance is key to any airline's success. FEAM puts particular emphasis on training, being lean, and providing high-quality support. Their engineers meet the highest global industry requirements. In a work environment that is almost 100% paperless, everything is automated, allowing the technicians to do more with the same amount of resources and be faster at doing it. Everybody in sales, administration, IT, executive, quality maintenance, and safety has access to the data and is working together towards the common goal. FEAM certifications are recognized throughout the world. In a market where line maintenance is key to any airline's maintenance success, their mission is to provide high-quality, precision maintenance at a low, affordable cost. The vision is to be recognized as the world leader in aircraft maintenance by delivering superior customer services, on-time reliability, while maintaining the highest standards of aircraft maintenance. And just as necessary, providing a safe and stable work environment for its employees and utilizing its business expertise to inspire and implement industry change. In 2018, FEAM serviced more than 57,000 flights. Its 1,000-plus technicians are located at 27 station locations dealing with over 30 global customers. And most important, FEAM is still privately owned, and it strives to treat all of its employees like family. When things get tough and there's a job that needs to be done, even company co-founder Fred Murphy will still pull out his tools and work hand in hand with the techs to help tackle a problem. From the beginning, Fred Murphy believed in treating people like people. His vision is that the company's highly qualified mechanics and engineers are the boots on the ground to uphold the company's high standard of quality and safety. They are the face of the company to its clients, and he wants them to know that they will never be just a number. With its vibrant and fun work environment, FEAM attracts top talent. It is regarded as the place to be in aviation. People come to work at FEAM and they stay. FEAM is a model of what a company in the aviation industry needs to look like. This industry involves many roles besides the glamour job of piloting an aircraft. While aircraft maintenance may not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think of a career in aviation, there's a lot to be said for getting your hands dirty while working under the hood, wings, and flaps of an actual airplane. It's therefore fitting that FEAM be awarded the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame 2019 Aviation Achievement Award.
Tonight, we're honored to have with us 2 of the key people at that amazing company you just saw on the video, FEAM. Fred Murphy and his son, Cam Murphy. Cam is the managing director and plays a key role in the daily operations of FEAM. And listen to this. Cam was recently selected as one of Forbes' 30 under 30 in the manufacturing and industry category. That's a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. That is a big deal. So I'm going to first bring out Cam Murphy, and then he'll bring out his father, Fred Murphy. Cam?
First of all, I'm grateful to be here. It's an honor to be here. I'm happy to see so many new faces and the members of the FEAM team here. It's grateful because I have the privilege tonight to introduce someone that I've known for a long time. He drives me crazy at times, but he's a mentor. He's one of my best friends, someone that I love to the moon and back, and it's my father, which is tonight's recipient. So please join me in welcoming him to the stage.
Wow. And we got to give a big hand to Colonel Parker here, who's doing an outstanding job as our Master of Ceremony. You got to love a guy that was a C-141 pilot. That was my airplane. That's what I worked on when I was in C-141s. I want to thank the Kentucky Aviation Museum and the Hall of Fame for this honor. I want to welcome everybody here, all the dignitaries that are present, and I certainly want to acknowledge the large presence of FEAM personnel that are here. Many of them work right here at CVG. We are so excited about this award and what this means to us. I had a really extensive speech to explain to you what we do, but the video seems to do a much better job than I'm going to be able to do. So what I'll tell you is that you know, to expound on the whole start of the company, you know, our company really is truly an American dream. It literally was two guys in a truck that started this company in 1992, and I was one of the original two that started it. LAX was our first base, and you know, over the years, we grew our locations, we grew our team members, our customers, and it's been an incredible ride. I'm honored to work with all of the outstanding people at FEAM that I work with, some of the finest people in the aviation business and in the world. Together, we have really built something special that, you know, quite frankly, I don't believe could be duplicated again. After 27 years in business, it's just unbelievable, and you know, where we are today, over 57,000 flights we handled in 2018. That's a staggering number to me. It's unbelievable. We have over 1,000 team members that work with FEAM. Most of those are professionally FAA licensed aircraft technicians, some of the finest men and women you could ever meet. We're located in 27 U.S. cities, almost all the major gateways, where these people work tirelessly day and night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in any kind of weather, under any kind of conditions, and any holidays, through all of the different things that they miss for their families and time away from their families. It's just an incredibly dedicated group of people. We have more than 30 global customers, as the video alluded to, many of the world's top airlines. We do a lot of work for many of the major OEMs, including Boeing and Airbus and Rolls-Royce and GE and TALS. And, you know, just to sum it up, who who could have ever imagined that from such humble beginnings that we all could have built a company of this magnitude and that turned into an industry leader like we are today. We're certified and recognized by nearly all of the aviation authorities in the entire world. And that leads us to here, why we're here today, the CVG airport and what we've been able to accomplish here. I want to say that the people at the CVG airport have been incredible. I feel like this is a second home to me. I love people from Kentucky. It's just amazing what you've been able to do to help us to achieve this. A little over 3 years ago when we came here, it was a fairly small operation. We started with our initial hire of 20 technicians, and it's just grown incredibly. Today it's I don't know the exact count. It's over 200 and something, and to cement our future with CVG, you see this incredible state-of-the-art maintenance facility that we were able to build here. We're so excited about it. That will open probably around the middle of December is what we're told. And we're so excited about that to support the Amazon and the DHL fleet. We honestly expect to hire probably another 200 people from the northern Kentucky area to help assist with that endeavor as we continue to grow in CVG. None of this would have been possible without, again, the tireless dedication of everyone on the FEAM team, and I thank them with all my heart. This honor belongs to all of you, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank my wife Rivian for all the support that she's given me over the 27 years that we've been doing this together. You met my son. He's been an integral, huge part of the growth of FEAM and what we've been able to do. And I just really want to sum it up to say that this whole experience has truly been a blessing from God. And I thank all of you. Thank you very much.
Let us now honor the 3 Kentuckians who have been elected for enshrinement into the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame. By their work, their leadership, and perseverance, for sure, they have enhanced the Commonwealth's contributions to aviation and aerospace. It was somewhat of a surprise when our first enshrinee, Larry Gossett, found out that he had been nominated to the Hall of Fame by his old friend and museum member, Dr. Gary Earl. Gary saw his friend as someone who had an extraordinary career in aviation and felt that his accomplishments should be recognized. But Larry, being humble, thought he was just doing what was expected of a student, a soldier, and a member of his community. Let's take a few minutes to review the life and career of our first enshrinee, Larry Gossett.
E pluribus unum is found on the United States seal and currency. It translates into one out of many. This expression, plus many are called but few are chosen, refers to those considered humble, focused, determined, hardworking, and patriotic. As you will see, these powerful expressions describe the life of Larry Edwards Gossett. Larry was born in December 1947 in Cynthiana, Kentucky. His parents owned and operated a 190-acre farm that Larry grew up and worked on. Larry learned baseball from his older brother Ernie, which served him well. He became the leadoff batter for the first game ever for Harrison County's Little League All-Stars. He later pitched a 2-hitter, 10-0 shutout in All-Star play, increasing his self-confidence. Living near the Cynthiana Harrison County Airport, Larry took his first ride in a Piper Tri-Pacer at the age of 12. He would spend his afternoons hangar flying with pilots who were happy to include Larry, even at his young age, and he soon got a job at the airport trading his salary for flying lessons. Reading an article in Air Progress magazine about a new type of military jet capable of flying 1,400 miles an hour, Larry, at age 14, knew what he wanted to do, and that was to fly the F-4 Phantom. Word got back to his father that Larry was a bright young kid with a smile on his face, working hard at the airport, and Mr. Gossett was proud to sign Larry's FAA form so he could solo at age 16. In 1966, Larry enrolled at the University of Kentucky, joining the ROTC and pursuing history and political science majors. He was a walk-on baseball player for 3 years, pitched winning baseball as a letterman. Balancing sports, academics, and his military training, Larry learned at UK to never give up and keep trying. He graduated in 1970, earning his Air Force ROTC commission as a second lieutenant, entering flight school. Larry graduated second in his class of 43. He was faced with a fork-in-the-road decision. He was given a choice between flying the F-4 Phantom jet or the C-141 cargo jet, the C-141 being a more direct path to a later career in the airlines. Larry asked, "Lord, what do you want me to do?" He knew the war was coming, and his love of country weighed in as well. He decided to realize his dream of flying the F-4 Phantom. He was transferred to Homestead Air Force Base, where he was greeted with a picture of an F-4 flying behind a MiG-21. The inscription read, "Welcome to fighter country. I am not afraid to go into the valley of death because I'm the meanest SOB in the valley." At Homestead, Larry sensed a different learning attitude and awakening. He was trained to win in a super competitive environment. He learned that a lot of it is attitude, which is the thing that had been shaping him since his early years. He was assigned to Hahn Air Force Base in Germany. He quickly rose to flight leader, even though he was just a first lieutenant. He was one of the first to reach this position at such an early age. Next, he was selected to go to Nellis Air Force Base for testing the latest laser bombing technology. He was checked out in the Maverick air-to-ground anti-tank missile and became the flight leader for the first ever air-to-ground anti-tank guided weapon missile test in the European poor weather environment. In 1976, Larry was handpicked as one of the 4 pilots representing the USA to participate in the Air Force's Central Europe Tactical Weapons Meet at Baden-Solingen, competing and winning the low-level contest against 6 NATO countries. At Hahn, Larry would spend the next 3 Christmases sitting in an F-4 on a flight line, heavily armed and ready to fly into enemy territory if ordered during the Cold War. While at Hahn, he was promoted to captain and completed a master's degree in executive development of public service through Ball State University. Larry also met Pam Hawkins, who was a high school guidance counselor working with the Department of Defense. Leaving Europe, Larry was assigned as an F-4 pilot instructor at Luke Air Force Base in Arizona. It was there that he and Pam would marry in 1978. Larry was honored by being selected to go to the highly regarded Fighter Weapons School at Nellis. This presented another fork-in-the-road decision. Larry believed completing the program could lead to advancing his military profession. Still, he now had a wife and young family, and he knew it was time for a change. At the Officers Club, a concerned friend told Larry to call Federal Express and ask for flight operations. Larry was hired in 1979 as a commercial pilot for the then fledgling Federal Express Corporation. While at FedEx, he held positions as a line pilot, simulator instructor pilot, and line check airman flying the Falcon DA-20, Boeing 727, and retired as a DC-10 pilot after 30 years. Since retirement, Larry has believed in giving back. He established an aviation fund through the Bluegrass Community Foundation for young people interested in making flying a career. Scholarships assist those attending aviation camps or pursuing other interests in aviation. Larry and Pam have 2 children, David Gossett and Joan Oates, and together have 5 grandchildren who give great pleasure to Larry and Pam. As one out of many, Larry has been hardworking, focused, and purposeful throughout his successful military life. It is therefore fitting that Larry Edwards Gossett be enshrined into the official Aviation Hall of Fame of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Okay, did he really say he picked the F-4 over C-141? Doesn't he understand the value of flying with a flushing toilet? Good gracious, I still like him. When Dr. Gary Earls submitted the nomination for Larry Gossett, he wrote, quote, I will preface my nomination of Larry by saying that I have known Larry my entire life. We played sports against each other in grade school and together in high school. I can attest that he is a fierce competitor and a disciplined individual with remarkable career achievements in aviation. Amen. Now let's welcome our own Dr. Gary Earl as Larry's presenter. Dr. Earl.
I feel like my speech has been plagiarized because what I'm going to say, most of it's already been said tonight, but I will add some extras in here that I don't think was said earlier. As I already mentioned, I nominated Larry several years ago for consideration of this induction into the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame because I knew him very well and I grew up with him. We both went to the same high school. We played against each other in grade school, which was very competitive at that time, in basketball especially. But I felt like that he did deserve this award because of his dedication and his actual physical skills and athletic skills, as well as his skill in flying. Larry and I knew each other, like I say, from grade school when we competed against each other in basketball. And he was a very fierce competitor and very, very athletically gifted. He played against me in Little League, and I think he was all-star each year. That included 5 years of Little League, and that was probably a record at the time in itself. And in baseball, we played together in high school. And he just was a very gifted athlete. He grew up on a small farm in Harrison County, and as fate would have it, he lived very close to the Cynthiana-Harrison County Airport. And he got introduced into flying with he and his brother went over to just take a little flight. It cost them $2 each, I think, at the time, in the probably the early 60s or maybe in the 50s. And he was really kind of got hooked on flying. And so he started even in grade school, since he couldn't drive a car at that time, he would take his bicycle, take his bicycle across the Licking River and up the hill, over the hill to the airport. And he started doing maintenance chores in the area and to get to know the pilots. And some of the civic-minded pilots there befriended Larry and said that you need to become a pilot. So he started doing the chores, and his pay was he got a lesson for 30 minutes each week in flying. And as already mentioned, he soloed at one of the earliest dates you could be at age 16 and got his pilot's license. He went to University of Kentucky same year as I did, and majored in education, but also went into the Air Force ROTC program there. He graduated from UK in 4 years. He did play on the baseball team and lettered 3 years in baseball at University of Kentucky. And so when he got through his Air Force program, ROTC program, he went into the flight school in Laredo, Texas, as a second lieutenant. And he was one of 66 people in that flight year. And it was very competitive, as we all know. I'm not a flyer, but I know how competitive it can be. And only 43 actually made it through the flight school at Laredo. And Larry graduated second in his class. So it was very competitive, and he was at the top of the class, so to speak. Now, Larry, by being at such a high place in the class, was able to choose his aircraft. Now, I'll go back a little bit. Larry, in addition to starting to fly or take some lessons back when he was even in grade school, he purchased a magazine when he was still in grade school at the local drugstore, and it was an Air Force magazine. And within that magazine was a long article regarding this new fighter plane that the Air Force was going to have, the F-4 Phantom. And word has it that at that time he says, I'm going to fly that airplane within 10 years. And I think Larry probably kept that promise because he elected to fly the F-4, went to Homestead, as you've already seen and heard, to take special training in that aircraft, and then was assigned to the 10th Tactical Fighting Squadron in Hahn, Germany. Now, he quickly became well-respected with his talents in flying, and he became a flight leader even as a first lieutenant, which was quite unusual at the time of your career in the Air Force. Due to these flying skills, he was noted earlier by his superiors to be special, and so he was selected to do special training in precision weapon system delivery, which was a new technology at that time, and he was sent to Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada for that training. After he trained, he went back to Hahn, where he became flight leader of this precision weapon system. And they performed several tests over there at the time, and the tests proved so useful, and he was debriefed in the Pentagon along with his flight team, and he received awarded a 4-star level in debriefing by both the Chief of Staff of the Air Force and the Secretary of the Air Force. So this was a great honor. Following this, he returned back to Hahn, Germany, and it was mentioned here. He was a member of a team called the Tactical Weapons Team meet. He was on the U.S. team, and they competed with the European countries in that meet. It was a biannual meet, and when he was a pilot and one of the 4 pilots on the USA team, they won that meet on the low-level flying tactical skills. During his time at Hahn, he also earned a master's degree in executive development and public service from the Ball State University. He, due to his excellent skills in flying, he was selected to come back to the United States to Luke Air Force Base, where he was actually a flight instructor for future Air Force pilots. At that time, he also was chosen to enter flight weapons school in Nellis Air Force Base, and this is where his path changed. By this time, as you have already seen the pictures and so forth, he had met Pam, his future wife, and after marriage, they then had 2 children, and he felt like that he probably owed it to them to try to be close at home. Apparently, after he finished his flight school, the weapons flight school, he was scheduled to go to Korea, and his wife and family could not come along for whatever reasons, I guess Air Force restrictions, whatever. So he decided, I need to provide for my family and be there while they're growing up. And so he selected then to start with the Federal Express agency, the cargo agency, when they were very young at the time. At that time, they were just regional flights, but they gradually, as we well know, became a multi-country corporation who would fly transcontinental. And Larry, by the time he'd finished after 30 years with Federal Express, he was a captain on the DC-10 plane. So he accomplished a lot during his years at Federal Express, too. Now, his total career as a pilot was 46 years, and he retired in 2010. And you could say, well, maybe it's time for him to go to the rocking chair and just live on his laurels, but that wasn't Larry. He was very instrumental in establishing the Harrison County Baseball Alumni Association, really was, in a way, the founder and had other members of his team at that time from high school to join with him and formed this Alumni Association, which now gives scholarships for the graduates from the high school team that want to further their career, both either in aviation or in college for a degree in college. In addition, he also established, as I already mentioned, an aviation fund at the Bluegrass Community Foundation, and this is for aspiring young people in the field of aviation with scholarships. His wife, Pam, and his son, David, and daughter, Joni, are here tonight, along with his sister and 2 brothers, to be here to honor him. They've given Larry a lot of encouragement during his years as a successful career that he's had. Please join me in recognizing Larry as an inductee into the 2019 class of the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Gossett has now received the medallion inscribed in his name and is declared duly enshrined in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame.
Wow. Wow. How do you like to have a friend like Dr. Earl? Wow. He is truly has been and will continue to be a great human being. Wow. Let's get this checklist checked out. Okay, thank you, Gary, for your kind words. I'm proud of my lifelong friend, Gary. Dr. Gary Fisher Earl is a most respected and outstanding cardiothoracic and vascular surgeon here in Lexington for 35 years. Dr. Earl is one of only 10 of these highly specialized surgeons in the central Kentucky region. Dr. Earl is a leader in the medical profession, no question about it. I was blessed with fine parents. I spent the first 18 years of my life on my parents' beautiful, productive 190-acre farm in southern Harrison County near Lair, Kentucky. I learned a lot of good things on that farm, as well as my hometown of Cynthiana. I learned that smart, hard work over time produces value. My father taught me about time management. When my father said, "Larry, be in the field at 7 a.m., I was there at 6:45. I was not past 6:50. That boded well for my career, a long professional aviation career in the United States Air Force as well as FedEx. I also thank my parents for paying for my undergraduate degree from the University of Kentucky. Cats won tonight. Any cat fans here? Now I get to thank my lovely wife, Pam. Pam, thank you for your love and support over 41 years and counting. We were blessed with 2 wonderful children, and now we're blessed with 5 wonderful grandchildren. Our son, David Spencer Gossett, and wife, Jenny, are here, and our daughter, Joan Elizabeth Gossett Oates, and husband, Matt, are here. Our precious grandchildren are from ages 8 to 3 years old. We enjoy Grace, Caroline, Hawkins, and Noble Gossett, and the precious 3-year-old Joanna Oates. I confess, I love to go to the ice cream store with them. I thank my siblings for their love and support for a lifetime. They're here tonight with their spouse, Ernest Gossett and Mary, Robert Gossett and Linda, Martha Gossett, Snodgrass, and Jim. Other friends are here as well, Ms. Patricia Earl and Mr. Ken Abner, who is the mayor of Berry, Kentucky. I thank for all of you being here tonight for the support and share this great celebration. I was blessed by meeting 2 successful Cynthiana businessmen at the Cynthiana Airport when I was a teenager. Mr. Dick Cole and Mr. Reed Anderson, they both owned individual Cessna 172s, and both were instrumental in encouraging my flying career from the age of 14 onward. I miss those guys. I really miss those guys. They died at an early age of 65. They and their wives attended our marriage in Pennsylvania. The first professional golf tournament I ever attended was with Reed Anderson when he took me for 2 days to the Masters tournament. I am truly grateful for the encouragement, guidance, and mentoring these fine men shared with me. I am appreciative to the Kentucky Aviation Museum Hall of Fame Board for the induction into the 2019 class. Thank you so much.
Last year I had heart surgery, and Dr. Earl is a heart surgeon, and we were talking backstage, and I explained what happened with my surgeon. He says, it sounds like they did the right thing, but they certainly didn't make you any better looking, and I really appreciated that comment. Since when do heart surgeons think they're comedians? I don't know. Let's move on to the second enshrinee tonight in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame. The committee put together a script for me, about half of which I've read, the other half I haven't. But they didn't put any words in there for Dr. Suzanne Weaver Smith because they knew that she's a very close personal friend of mine. I've known her for 15 years. And I love her so much, they figured certainly whatever they would write for me, I would not use. So I have my own comments about her. But Suzanne Smith, you're going to see the video in a moment. You'll be amazed at some of the things she's done for aviation and aerospace, and she's significant internationally with her research. Every time I try to walk into a room next to her because she's, without a doubt, always the smartest person in the room. And if I'm next to her, they think, well, perhaps he's as smart as she is. They'd be wrong, but it rubs off, I hope. When I was aviation commissioner recently, I guess it was about 2 years ago, I took a trip to Washington, D.C. to help lobby Amazon for a wide variety of things to get them to come to Kentucky and do more things. I wasn't the only one, many people were doing that. And I put together a team of 4 to go with me. The first person I selected to go to Washington to meet with the lawyers in Washington, D.C. For Amazon was Dr. Suzanne Weaver Smith. And we learned so much, and whenever she would speak, she's like, remember the old E.F. Hutton commercials? Whenever she speaks, everybody listens. She is probably the smartest woman, or the smartest person I've ever known. And she is also one of the most kind people I've ever known. How the Lord could pack so much knowledge and so much goodness and kindness into one body, I don't know, but that is Suzanne Smith, and I love her dearly. Let's take a few moments to review the life and career of this amazing PhD from UK.
When we asked Dr. Suzanne Smith what she wanted to be when she was growing up, there was no hesitation. A teacher and an engineer. Born to parents George W. Weaver and Jean C. Weaver of Morgantown, West Virginia, the idea of being an engineer and a teacher came naturally to Suzanne. Her grandfather and her father were both engineers and teachers, and both had a keen interest in aviation. Inspired by her middle school teacher, Mrs. Southard, to science, Suzanne kept a detailed logbook of the local caterpillars, moths, and butterflies, and would make sketches of the more prominent specimens in the neighborhood. As she grew older, her interest in science, and in particular engineering, would blossom. While attending South Carolina's Clemson University, she realized that she had a knack for explaining how things worked in a way that made her a sought-after tutor to her fellow students. It was that experience that made her realize that she could be a teacher and an engineer. She finished her studies at Clemson with a BS and Master's in Engineering Mechanics, and in 1980 accepted a position with Harris Corporation, Government Aerospace Systems Division in Melbourne, Florida. Her first assignment? Developing computer models that would validate the effect of vibrations to the Fine Guidance System, FGS, electronics of the Hubble Space Telescope to assess its launch survivability. The FGS is an optical sensor used to provide pointing information for the spacecraft as a scientific instrument for astrometric science. It can detect when the telescope drifts even a minuscule amount and will return the spacecraft to its target. The concern for this very sensitive instrument? Could it survive the intense vibration of the launch and still do its job? Suzanne was tasked with finding that out. In 1988, Suzanne received her PhD from Virginia Tech and began working there as a visiting assistant professor in the Department of Engineering Science and Mechanics. Her PhD research was funded by NASA to determine the feasibility of using vibration measurements to locate change in the backbone structure of the newly announced International Space Station. In 1990, Suzanne would come to Kentucky and begin her long career with the university. In 1992, Smith received the prestigious National Science Foundation Young Investigator Award to research vibration interactions in large flexible structures like the solar arrays on the ISS. Smith started the new century continuing her research with unique, flexible structures and testing in extreme or unusual environments with both large and small companies. One Kentucky project applied aerospace research methods to understand cable vibrations of the Maysville and Owensboro stay cable bridges and their susceptibility to the potentially damaging rain-wind oscillations phenomenon. Another project modeled the deployment of inflatable boom spacecraft validated with microgravity experiments conducted by students, the weightless Wildcats. Smith and a team of faculty researchers then began working on what would become the 5-year Big Blue Mars airplane program to demonstrate the feasibility of inflatable wings for aircraft to explore Mars while providing an amazing multidisciplinary career-changing experience for over 300 engineering students. The team designed 4 different wings and deployment experiments, successfully conducting them at altitudes between 60,000 and 95,000 feet. These were cited for increasing the technology readiness level of deployable wings for planetary exploration. The achievement led to the industrial collaborations from 2009 to 2012 that advanced deployable wing technologies for various sponsors. In 2010, Smith was selected to lead NASA's investments to develop aerospace research and workforce under the NASA Kentucky Space Grant and EPSCoR, the established program to simulate competitive research programs. Investing more than $20 million in Kentucky, these programs provide amazing experiences for students, along with crucial startup support for early career facilities across Kentucky. The benefits for Kentucky include a high-tech workforce, research expertise, intellectual property, and aerospace startups, including Space Tango. Today, Smith and a multidisciplinary team that has grown to span 6 states are developing unmanned aircraft systems and technologies to address critical scientific questions in atmospheric physics. Precision meteorology, accurate local scale forecasting will impact lives and livelihoods in Kentucky, across the U.S., and worldwide. Even with all the projects and experiences Suzanne has had, she considers her work on the Hubble to be one of the high points. She's very proud of the work that she does as a teacher. From her early experiences as a tutor at Clemson, she believes in working with her students and getting to know their interests. When she teaches dynamics, she will use examples that are related to the interests the students already have to help drive real work examples of the subject matter. She strives to inspire her students to learn. Smith's husband Bill is a Kentucky native and a University of Kentucky graduate. He's a professor at the UK Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. They have one daughter, Virginia, who's a PhD student in aerospace engineering at Virginia Tech. Suzanne understands being inspired, and on the morning of April 12, 1981, she and her husband Bill were in Cocoa Beach, Florida, to watch the launch of the Space Transportation System 1, the Space Shuttle Columbia's first mission. She still remembers the sound of the launch, even being miles away. They could hear the roar of the engine as the shuttle lifted away. But as the engine noise subsided, it was the next sound that inspired her. It was applause. From up and down the beach, the crowd was clapping for what they had just witnessed, another step from mankind into space. It is therefore fitting that Dr. Suzanne W. Smith be enshrined in the official Aviation Hall of Fame of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
I told you she was a smart lady. I was watching the video backstage, and I was thinking about all the things she's done, and then I thought of something that happened to me this afternoon. My wife had to show me how to download an app on my phone. So I can't even do that, and she did all of that. She's incredible. Presenting Dr. Smith tonight will be someone who has had the opportunity to watch her life and career firsthand. David Weaver is Suzanne's brother. David is the head of the West Virginia office of a very large nationwide company called AECOM, a company that bills itself as a premier infrastructure firm partnering with clients to solve the world's most complex challenges and building legacies for generations to come. He's an engineer just like his sister. Now I'd like to bring forward David Weaver to tell us more about his amazing sister. David?
Well, good evening. I'm ecstatic to be here in Kentucky at this wonderful event, and honored to be present or to present to you my sister, Suzanne Weaver Smith. So I'll start without discussing anybody's age. It's important to know that she came before me in the birth order of our family, and that we have no other siblings. She had a number of years on this earth before I came along, and I'm told that she was not absolutely thrilled with my arrival. And some of you out here might be able to relate to that. And I was also often told, or I was often referred to as Susie's bratty little brother, and I probably was. Our house was an engineering house, as our father was a mechanical engineer who served on the faculty of West Virginia University. And as we grew up, there was definite engineering influence as our father taught Susie, who then taught me how to make paper airplanes, how to actually use a slide rule, not that we do that anymore, using a toy gyroscope to do dynamics tricks, and an assortment of other types of puzzles and other pretty much useless pastimes. And growing up, I remember that my sister was creative and had an interest in nature, as was mentioned, particularly in horses and butterflies. I think she came to the right place for that. She seemed to have a thing for transformation, and like was mentioned, she would like to collect caterpillars and watch them transform to become butterflies. With the inspiration from our father and influence from a family friend and aviator, Professor Ed Byers, Clemson alumni, Susie went to Clemson University in South Carolina for an education in mechanical engineering. Eventually, I went to Clemson as well because of the influence of my sister, but I chose to become a civil engineer. And there's an engineering joke that some of you might have heard, that civil engineers make targets and mechanical engineers blow them up. In our case, my sister engineers aircraft and spacecraft, and I engineer runways and highways. In our adult lives, we became much closer than we were when we were young. And while we lost our father way too early, our engineering family grew when she met and married my brother-in-law, Bill Smith. And it grew again when their daughter, my niece Jenny, survived taking a class at UK from her mother and graduated with an engineering degree. And as was mentioned, she's now pursuing a PhD in aerospace engineering. Susie continues to transform things, and one of her hobbies that she shares with her husband, Bill, is cooking. And she does an excellent job transforming good ingredients into great food. Holidays in our family consist of good times together, talking sports, eating very well, and doing other fun activities like making paper airplanes, doing tricks with gyroscopes, puzzles, and other pretty much useless engineering-related pastimes. I guess they're useless unless you're a dynamics professor and you use those same skills for your students, to teach your students. I'm proud of my sister and all that she's accomplished. And like most good engineers, she's curious, creative, uses critical thinking, and has a collaborative spirit and a humble character. As we look to the future of aviation, I've learned from my colleagues at AECOM that one of the biggest challenges will be the control and use of airspace as technology continues to advance at an accelerated pace. And while I believe that my sister has contributed to the preparation for this challenge with some of, or much of her important research that was described, I believe that her biggest legacy will be seen as her many, many students who have learned from her teaching through the years. And I'll include in those students her daughter Jenny and her younger brother. At this point, I'd like to bring out my sister, Suzanne Weaver Smith.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Suzanne Weaver Smith is now receiving the medallion inscribed in her name and is declared duly enshrined in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame.
Thank you, David. You know, one of the best projects of my career was working with David on practical solutions for bridge cable vibrations. He's a great engineer, he's a good man, and he's a terrific brother. Thanks too to Colonel Parker. My advice to those in the room who may not know this yet is to watch out, because when he asks you to just come and speak to some high school teachers about a cool project your UK students are doing, you might find that you, your colleagues, and your students end up creating and conducting 4 years of high school wing design competitions for dozens of high schools and hundreds of high school students. So beware. I want to thank everyone from the Aviation Museum of Kentucky and also from the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame for this amazing honor. I appreciate so much the opportunity to reflect on my career choices, my exceptional colleagues, the over 500 amazing students that I've worked with on projects over the years, and especially my incredible family support that all contributed so much to the work that you are recognizing with this honor. First of all, to my husband, Bill, thanks for your unwavering and unconditional help through my entire career. You know, we met in 1981 at Harris Corporation on the Space Coast of Melbourne, Florida, as you've heard. And we were both working on one of the first modern US military drone programs every day since. He's been there, you've been there, listening and offering terrific advice that really typically gets to the heart of whatever challenge I'm facing or my students are facing. I chose to take the job at Harris instead of directly continuing my PhD at that time, and it was the best choice of my life. I met and fell in love with the man of my dreams, and I married Kentucky and UK. Thanks also to our amazing daughter, Virginia. I hope you have a chance to meet her and Bill if you haven't already. Since she was very little, she's been with us and the hundreds of students that we've worked with on their adventures. And then she had several of her own as a UK undergrad pursuing aerospace engineering. Thinking of her and what classes should offer was always an inspiration for me, and I was so fortunate to have her in actually 2 of my classes. So that was a great experience together. As you all can tell, I'm as proud as I can be, and Ginny is the joy of my life. I didn't have my dad as a teacher directly, but he certainly was a mentor for me before he passed away, early as I was beginning this profession. After that, there were many other role models and amazing colleagues along the way, including Janet Lump and Mike Renfro, who are both joining us here this evening, and Jacob Owen and Sean Bailey and Jamie Jacob, who some of you know in this audience. Academic careers at public universities have to blend teaching and research and service to the broad community. The most significant impacts of my work, I agree with David, are going to be through my students, not through my specific research projects, although we have tackled and contributed to a number of challenging and interesting problems over the 40 years since I finished at Clemson. I wanted to share 2 quotes with you that have been my favorites and my inspiration over all of these years. John Henry Newman in 1873 wrote, "The idea of a university. It was written when land-grant universities were just emerging, like Kentucky and Clemson and West Virginia University and Virginia Tech. They were just starting to change our nation and the world, offering public education to everyone. And this quote resonates for me. The general principles of any study you may learn by books at home, but the detail, the color, the tone, the air, the life which makes it live in us, you must catch all of these from those in whom it lives already. Being a source to ignite this love of subject has always been my goal as a teacher. As a lifelong learner, so in other words, as a researcher, I've also always loved what Isaac Newton said. He said, I don't know what I've appeared to the world, but to myself I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore and diverting myself and now and then finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary, whilst the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. And this is a favorite quote of mine because of what it means, not just because I'd rather be at the beach. There are undiscovered truths all around us and amazing futures ahead. When I was working on methods to detect damage on the International Space Station before it was built, I never imagined that some of my students would actually be involved with building it and would work with it daily and with their colleagues from around the world. And I can tell you that we're now getting ready to enter a golden age of aviation and aircraft design. With what we now know about controls that have enabled the stable flight of rotorcraft drones and fly-by-wire aircraft, and what we now know about computer modeling of aerodynamics and structures, and what we now know about the emerging advances in electric propulsion, things are really getting ready to change. It's opened up the design space for aircraft so that we're going to see things that have never before been possible. And these students that we've been working with are the ones that are going to do this. Completely new concepts for urban air mobility. It's not quite the Jetsons yet, but it's taking the first steps. Hypersonic transport, and so much more. Possibilities beyond all of our wildest dreams. And it's great that Ed Murphy and you have been inspiring all those campers and visitors who are going to be the ones to create this amazing future. For them and our young faculty who'll be leading them and teaching them, there is so much more to discover. It's going to be really amazing. And the one thing I'll say to you is I think you need to start building or thinking about building that new third hangar because you're going to need it to showcase their results. Thank you again, everyone.
Well, we've all studied history, haven't we? And our final enshrinee has had the chance to be a major part of it. Victor Herbert Strahm began his career as listen to this, a World War I flying ace. And he's credited with 5 aerial victories in World War I. Between the wars, he served as a chief test pilot for the United States Army Air Corps. And among his many accomplishments during World War II, he served as a principal planner for the flight operations Over the Hump, you're familiar with that, which supplied materials to the Chinese Nationalist Forces and the U.S. 10th Air Force, or the Flying Tigers. So let's take a few moments, watch the video, and learn about this incredible man who was a hero in both world wars, Victor Herbert Strahm.
Victor Herbert Strahm was the youngest of 3 children born to German immigrant Franz and Alice Strahm. A successful director of music and theater for the city of Nashville, Victor's father, Franz, was recruited by Dr. Henry Hardin Cherry to lead the music program at Western Kentucky State Normal School in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Thus began Victor Strahm's life in Kentucky. Bowling Green offered many amenities in 1910 that other towns its size could not. In addition to 2 theaters, they had a YMCA, complete with an indoor swimming pool and gymnasium. The YMCA also found sponsors that were willing to provide shirts and prizes for youth teams in baseball and basketball. Activities in Bowling Green revolved around community sports. Young Victor enjoyed playing baseball, football, and basketball during his school years. After graduating with a teacher's certificate from Western Kentucky State Normal School in 1915, he then enrolled in the University of Kentucky's engineering program. When the United States declared war on its ancestral homeland in Germany in the spring of 1917, Victor eagerly dropped out of UK and signed up for military service. He departed for Fort Benjamin, Harrison, Indiana, to become an infantryman. During this same time, France's Premier Ribot was requesting 5,000 pilots and 4,500 airplanes from the United States in hopes of having them delivered by the spring of the following year. The U.S. had 7 aircraft and 14 pilots, so the Army desperately began their search for pilots. Vic answered one of the ads searching for college students with an electrical engineering background. Testing of prospective pilots was intense because of the large number of applicants. One qualifier was to test equilibrium by spinning the applicant violently around on a piano stool. This was not a problem for Victor, since he was not the music student that his father had hoped for, and young Victor had some familiarity with spinning on a piano stool. Victor completed ground school and then flight training at Wright Field in Dayton. He soloed and received his commission as a second lieutenant before continuing to Manola, Long Island for advanced training. Lieutenant Strahm was assigned to the 91st Aero Squadron, which shipped out of the RMS Adriatic headed for France. They arrived with no planes, no guns, no combat experience, just 5 short months after entering flight school. So flight school continued at Issoudun Aerodrome in France. Vic's first plane assignment was the Salissum 2A2, gathering photos behind enemy lines. Although the Salissum was considered inferior to German planes, he managed to shoot down 3 Fokkers and a Faz, and a Rumbler 2-seater as a reconnaissance pilot. His last confirmed kill was just 6 days before the armistice. Victor H. Strahm was now an ace. He was made a flight commander of the 91st Aero Squadron in August and decorated with the U.S. Distinguished Service Cross by General William Billy Mitchell a short time later. All aviators in the 91st Aero Squadron who received the Distinguished Service Cross were presented to the Prince of Wales for a private audience. Victor received several other medals: the French Croix de Guerre with gold and silver palms, British Distinguished Flying Cross, Italian Gold Medal for Valor. He also received citations from General John J. Pershing and General Mitchell for heroism in battle. General Mitchell advised pilots to stay active after the war as test pilots to enter air races in preparation for the next conflict. Victor remained in the Army as a test pilot and later as a chief test pilot, testing the B-10, which was the predecessor to the B-17 and B-24. He also tested the P-12 and P-26 Pea-shooter pursuit planes. Victor was an advisor for Hollywood aviation movies and appeared briefly in one film while flying as a stunt pilot. He participated in several air races, finishing first in the National Southern Air Tournament in Bel Air, Florida, and third in 2 other races. During World War II, General Strahm was the senior planner for the 10th Air Force in the China-Burma-India theater, where more than 1 million troops and 1 million tons of supplies were airlifted over the hump into China. He was later transferred to the 9th Air Force to serve as Chief of Staff in North Africa and Great Britain. While in England, Strahm assisted the 9th Air Force in their preparation of the tactical air support for the Normandy invasion on D-Day. Victor's service awards for World War II were the U.S. Legion of Merit with 2 oak leaf clusters, the Polish Legion of Honor Commendation, Commander of the Order of the British Empire, French Legion of Honor, World War II Victory Medal, European African Middle East Ribbon, American Theater Ribbon, American Defense Ribbon, and the Asian Pacific Theater Ribbon. After the war, General Strahm served as base commander at Barksdale Air Force Base and later as commander of the 33rd Air Division at Tinker Air Force Base. He retired in 1953 with 36 years of service. Victor died in May of 1957 and is buried in Shreveport, Louisiana, beside his second wife. He was enshrined in the Western Kentucky University Hall of Distinguished Alumni in 2012. Strahm distinguished himself during both world wars as an aviation pioneer, a leader in military air tactics, and an intrepid defender of freedom. It is therefore fitting that Brigadier General Victor Herbert Strahm be enshrined into the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
In May 20 17, Mrs. Mary Lucas, Lieutenant Colonel Gilbert T. Calhoun, USAF retired, and Mr. Jonathan Jeffrey published a book about the life of Brigadier General Victor Herbert Strahm. The book is entitled That Perfect Feeling in the Air. Sounds like it should have been written by some of my 141 passengers, but nonetheless, an amazing book. We're honored to have both Colonel Calhoun to present the award and Mary Lucas here tonight to accept the award on behalf of the Strahm family. Colonel Calhoun.
Well, good evening. Mr. McCormick, Colonel Parker, members of the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame, distinguished members, class of 2019, honored guests, and my special friends from the Aviation Heritage Park from Bowling Green, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Mrs. Mary Lucas, Mr. Jonathan Jeffrey, and myself, Gilbert Calhoun, it gives me great pleasure to present Brigadier General Victor H. Strahm, United States Air Force deceased, for enshrinement into the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame. Victor Strahm's life reads like a Tom Sawyer story, but typical for the time. Victor was born in Nashville, Tennessee on 26 October of 1895. In 1910, Victor's father, Franz Strahm, was offered and accepted a position at Western Kentucky State College as head of the music department and moved his family to Bowling Green, Kentucky. Victor was like many boys of his age. They played baseball, basketball, football, and all other sports. Each required excellent reflexes, physical strength, and good judgment. He played on high school sports teams and eventually lettered in 4 sports at Western Kentucky State College: basketball, track, baseball, and football. Unheard of. I'd never seen anyone letter in 4 sports like that. Even as a youngster, Victor excelled in almost every undertaking. Victor's interest in aviation was like all young men of his age. Whenever he heard the sound of an airplane flying overhead in Bowling Green, with eyes like a hawk, he searched the skies until he found the plane and studied the wonders of flight made with these flimsy, flying crates made of canvas, wire, and wood. His fascination with aviation increased with the beginning of World War I, when American newspapers were full of war and use of airplanes in war. Victor enlisted in the U.S. Army on 14 May of 1917 after having completed 2 years at Western Kentucky State College, and later 1 year at the University of Kentucky, where he had been an engineering student when the U.S. entered World War I. After entering the Army, Victor answered an advertisement for soldiers to volunteer for the U.S. Air Service. His dreams to fly were now to be fulfilled. Having completed flight training at Wright Field in Dayton, Ohio, Victor Strahm's life focused on aviation from that point onward. Victor arrived in France on 13 November of 1917 after having completed the French flying school at Issoudun, France, about 120 miles south of Paris. He was assigned to the U.S. Air Service 91st Aero Observation Squadron at Amity, France, flying the French 2-seater Samson 2A2 reconnaissance aircraft, a fast, reliable, and an adaptive aircraft. Colonel Billy Mitchell, commander of all U.S. Air Service units in World War I, defined the characteristics that he wanted seen in his pilots. They were to possess a bit of the daredevil, be confident in their skills as an aviator, be risk takers, always be ready for a fight, be able to handle the mental and physical strains of combat operations, and most of all, have that unquenchable thirst for flying. Victor Strahm possessed all such distinguished qualities and more. Victor Strahm was an extremely skillful pilot, displayed remarkable courage and aptitude in flying. He was flying deep missions, reconnaissance missions deep into enemy territories of about 25 kilometers or about 22 miles, flying at an altitude of 300 meters. He was always watchful for German fighter aircraft on the prowl and was successful in downing 5 German aircraft, 3 of which were Fokker D-7s, the best in the German inventory. Victor was one heck of a pilot. For Victor Strahm's heroism in combat during World War I, he was awarded the U.S. Distinguished Service Cross, second only to the U.S. Medal of Honor, the French Croix de Guerre with Gold Palm, and other medals, awards, and citations. In February of 1919, at an 91st Aero Squadron farewell dinner in Koblenz, Germany, Victor, an accomplished pianist, and several friends entertained the crowd with roaring renditions of Homesick Blues, Ballin' the Jack, and some of the new ragtime music. That place must have been jumping that night. On 19 June of 1919, the war ended for Major Victor Strahm when he arrived in New York Harbor aboard the Liberator ship. Victor Strahm was a man who loved flying and wrote to his parents in a reply to one of their letters his feelings about flying. He responded saying, "I have that perfect feeling in the air." And there's no doubt that Victor was a man born to fly. Between the 2 world wars, Strahm thrilled air race audiences with his daring acrobatics, aerial acrobatics, while participating in a number of air races in the 1920s and the 1930s. Victor won first place in the National Southern Air Tournament in 1924 and finished 3rd in 2 other races and finished 4th in 1 other. As a test pilot, Victor studied and knew every aircraft he flew. He kept detailed accounts of his flying aircraft and the difficulties that he might have encountered. He wanted to know what influences an aircraft's performance in weather and in any other conditions of flight, and how to put that information to practical use. Victor was a formidable pilot and eagerly flew anything that the U.S. Army Air Corps provided him for test flights. He was a true pioneer in the development of military modern aviation technology. Victor's reputation as the decorated World War I ace and post-war test pilot attracted the attention of top military brass, as well as the notice. He became noticed by President Roosevelt. In January 1939, Major and Mrs. Strahm attended a formal dinner and musical performance at the White House as guests of President and Mrs. Roosevelt. You have heard the story of General Strahm's World War II experiences in the China-Burma-India theater of operations, as well as his efforts in helping reorganize the U.S. Army and Middle East Air Force in Egypt. Moreover, Strahm made outstanding contributions in the reorganization and rapid buildup of the U.S. 9th Air Force in England for its participation in the upcoming Normandy invasion. As a result of General Strahm's contributions during World War II, he was awarded the U.S. Legion of Merit, numerous other awards, citations, and letters of commendation from both U.S. and Allied officials. Following World War II, General Strahm was an important figure in the establishment of the Strategic Air Command and later the Air Defense Command. In 1953, Victor Strahm suffered a heart attack, suffering from complications following heart surgery. General Strahm's health continued to deteriorate. Later in 1953, he retired from the U.S. Air Force after participating in 2 world wars and giving 36 years of devoted service to his country. On the 28th of April of 1957, having undergone additional heart surgery and suffering from other complications, General Strahm died on 11 May of 1957 following a 3-week coma. He is buried in Shreveport, Louisiana. In summary, with Victor Strahm's dedicated service to his country and passion for flying, he became one of Kentucky's most courageous and valiant aviators and a pioneer in modern aviation. I am confident if General Strahm were alive today, he would consider this honor as his greatest award. Please let me conclude with an example of Victor Strahm's character and his patriotic feelings about going to serve in World War I. In part of a letter he wrote to his parents before leaving for France, "Upon my leaving, I do not want you to worry about me or ever be pessimistic in any way. I will be a man and do my duty. I feel happy and proud because I am going to do my duty. Your devoted boy, Vic." I would now like to introduce Mrs. Mary Lucas of Bowling Green and Jonathan Jeffrey, the other two authors of the book, That Perfect Feeling in the Air, The Life of Brigadier General Victor H. Strahm, and will join us on stage in accepting the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame plaque and medallion. Mrs. Lucas and Mr. Jeffrey. You can hold that, and Mary. Oh, didn't see you, Mary.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mary Lucas is now receiving the medallion inscribed in the name of Brigadier General Victor Herbert Strahm, who is declared duly enshrined in the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame.
We would like to express our sincere appreciation to the Kentucky Aviation Park for the enshrinement of Brigadier General Victor H. Strahm of Bowling Green into the Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame. We're pleased to be here. I didn't know I was going to get to wear this, to honor this remarkable Kentucky aviator and accept this plaque and this medallion in his memory. In writing this biography of Victor Strahm, we authors, Lieutenant Gilbert Calhoun, Mr. Jonathan Jeffrey, who, by the way, is the head of the Manuscripts and Archives Department of the Kentucky Museum and Library on Western's campus. All of us stand in awe of this exceptional air warrior for his great personal courage, his noteworthy dedication to his country, and his place in the development of U.S. aviation for military use. The only living relative of General Strahm is his stepdaughter-in-law, Mrs. Mary Jo Brooke, and she is unable to travel to receive these awards and has requested that they be placed in a prominent area at Western Kentucky University, where Strahm was once a student and where he has been recognized and placed in the Western Kentucky University's Hall of Distinguished Alumni. Mrs. Brooke previously had donated General Strahm's World War II diary to the Kentucky Museum and Library, which was used in the writing of this book, and it proved a valuable resource in what was going on in his mind while he planned the D-Day invasion. Also, we want to thank Brigadier General Dan Cherry of Bowling Green, who first brought General Strahm to the attention of this Kentucky Aviation Hall of Fame in Lexington. We are grateful for his efforts. Again, thank you for the lovely evening, this medallion and the plaque that Jonathan is holding, and the other for General Victor Strahm, and the other great Kentuckians who were honored in this wonderful event this evening. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know about you, but I had a good time tonight. Our goal was to get you out of here by 9. My clock says it's exactly 9. I have about 1 minute to say, and we'll be out of here. Thank you to everybody that organized this, the Hall of Fame committee, Jim McCormick for leading the effort, all the volunteers. It was well worth the time. Special thanks to the class of 2019, Larry Gossett, Dr. Suzanne Smith, Brigadier General Victor Herbert Strahm, and our Aviation Achievement Award winner, Feem Arrow. So can we have one round of applause for all the winners? Yes. Thank you. We'd like to ask all those that were honored come back to the stage briefly because they want to take a class picture. And if you won something at the silent auction, no need to pick it up, just leave the money on the table. That'll be good. If you won something, go to the front desk to claim your prize. And a final good night. Drive carefully. Happy Thanksgiving. And let's close with High Flight, narrated by our amazing friend, someone who we miss so much, the late Ray Holbrook.
Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter-silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up, up the long, delirious, burning blue, I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark nor even eagle flew. And while with silent, lifting mind, I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hands and touched the face of God. Go in peace. Good night.